Good morning, dear friends, brothers and sisters. This is indeed a very special day, this special Sunday, because we will be reflecting about Jesus in our days. It is also a special day because we're going to be hosting live in both channels, uh, the Conscience Living Spiritist Group's channel, but also at the Spirits Federation of Florida pages. So before we introduce our dear speaker of the day, Claudia Mellado, let us do our initial reading of the book, Our Daily Bread, and following the opening prayer. But the message that we have here from this beautiful book, Our Daily Bread, it's right in the beginning, in the first pages of this book, in Christian service. And there's the second letter that Paul sent to the Corinthians on chapter 5 and verse 10 that says exactly that. Let me read it. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive according to what he has done while in the body, whether good or evil. And let's see what Emmanuel brings to us, the explanation of this letter that Paul sent to the Corinthians. There is no lack of those who see Spiritism as a mere field of phenomenological experimentation with no moral significance for individuals. Many students of the consoling doctrine thus limit themselves to laboratory investigations or philosophical discussions. However, it is imperative to realize that there are as many categories of discarnate humans as there are of incarnate ones. Argumentative, frivolous, rebellious, and unstable spirits abound everywhere. Moreover, enigmas and problems arise for the inhabitants of both realms. In light of this, the discarnate supporters of effective world progress fight for Spiritism with Jesus, turning communication between the two worlds into a factor of sanctified spirituality. It is our belief that we should not tap into another circle of life if we are not interested in improving our character in the one we inhabited. There is no value in studying resources that will not edify us. Thus, for those of us who believe that our hearts have awakened to the responsibilities of living, Spiritism does not represent a mere belief in immortality. It entails service and spiritual growth. There is no point in believing in the soul's survival after death if one has not prepared oneself for life in the spirit world. And in this effort to ready ourselves, we have no wiser and more loving guide than Christ. Only in the light of his sublime lessons it is possible to readjust our pathway, renew our minds, and purify our hearts. Not everything that is remarkable is divine. Not everything that is grand is respectable. Not everything that is beautiful is holy. Not everything that is pleasant is useful. The problem is not only to become knowledgeable, but to reform ourselves for the expansion of the good. Therefore, let us cherish the gospel by living and feeling it, grasping the need for our inner illumination, because according to the timely and wise words of the apostle, we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive according to what he has done while in the body, whether good or evil. Let us do our initial prayer. Dear Father above, we are very happy to be here in this beautiful Sunday morning. Your Son, our dear brother Jesus, built something marvelous about how can we go ahead and become someone else different than what we were in the past. Help us to understand that only through loving one another we are going to achieve something different. Our inner peace that we are so much seeking for in days that a lot of confusion, a lot of materialistic ideas permeate the whole society. Help us to understand that the characteristics of the divine soul, which we all are, has an importance in transforming this inner world that we have inside. We have it within, and this will be the expression of the outside, making our world a better place to live. Jesus, in our days, it's so important that we can entrust to acknowledge his teachings and become one day a truly, truly moral human beings. Thank you so much, and so be it. Well, we are here, very happy. We have our dear Claudia Mellado. Claudia Mellado is a worker from Fraternity and Love Spiritist Center, but she's also the treasurer of the Spiritist Federation of Florida. She's a dear friend, she's a wonderful soul, and she's going to share with us Jesus in our days. Let's all give her a warm hug, even though if it's virtual. Let's embrace her so she can walk through his thought, through her thoughts, and bring us Jesus again. Thank you very much, Claudia. Claudinha, as we call her. The word is yours.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate these welcoming words. It's really a pleasure being here today with you all. Some of you already know me, right? I can see the hellos, and thank you so much for welcoming me as well. And first, I would like to mention, right, this beautiful video that the Federation brought. What a amazing messages accompanying it, right? This from this book, Happy Life. We have seen through the books of Joana de Angelis by Divaldo Franco so much excellent information for us, so many beautiful and positive messages that make us review ourselves, think about the goods and the possibilities of the future to come. And also, the message that Marcelo brought us, it has everything to do with this topic today. So what a great start for our day. And before I go straight to the book, Jesus in Our Days, and this topic comes from the book of Joana de Angelis, Jesus in Our Days, written by Divaldo Franco. And I fully recommend the reading because I'm going to bring just few passages from the book. But what a great, great book, amazing book to read, to learn from, and to understand more the teachings of Jesus. So before I started going straight to the book, I would like to talk a little bit about some messages from Bezerra de Menezes, right? Because he has been bringing so many messages using the mediumship of Divaldo to talk to us. And he has been warning us from these difficult times that we are living currently, right? All these challenges that have been arising from everywhere. The multiplicity of aggressiveness, of violence that we have been experiencing, and calling our attention for us to review our ethicals and morals. because we see that many of these aggressiveness, many of these violences that we are experiencing, seeing throughout, it is because of intolerance. It's because of the lack of the necessary virtues to be that good person that the gospel, according to Spiritism, talk to us and call us to work on, right? And it's important then that us Spiritists that already have this message, we be able not only to work on ourselves, and most important to work on ourselves, so we can give an example and talk about, I would not say to preach, right? We don't have to put our beliefs into anyone, but when we talk with that love, with in a pacific way, being that meek person that the gospel called us. So very important for us to remind these messages from Bezerra de Menezes, because he is warning us from these times. He has been warning us from this time for a very long time. And if we think about before the 2000s, we had a lot of struggles, we have a lot of challenges, and yet we have not seen nothing similar to what we have been experiencing from the past few years. So going to the book of Jesus in Our Days, we see that Joana de Angelis is doing exactly the same thing. With other words, she is asking us to review what is going on with ourselves and also with society in general, right? And she asks us to urgently include Jesus' teachings in our education. She asks us to look for the Jesus man, that one that walked on earth, that gave us and brought us teachings and examples for life. Sometimes when we think about Jesus, we think about the Jesus Christ, and we say, oh, but it's Jesus. How could we even try to do what he did, right, when he wasn't here? But when he came to earth, he experienced everything with his disciples and everyone that was around him. And from that experience, he gave the teachings. So he showed the best answer, let's put on this way, for each situation that he experienced with the disciples and those around him. And if we go to the Spirit's book, question 625, the Spirit tells us that Jesus is our guide and model. So of course he needs to be in a higher level than us to show us the appropriate way to respond to every single situation in life. If we have someone making the same mistakes that we are, how can we use that person as a guider, right? But Jesus showed us the best way possible to achieve all the situations that he was going through with those around him. And if we think about this, it's not easy, right, to follow Jesus. It is a challenge because he asks us to act sometimes in ways that goes against our desires. He asks us sometimes to leave behind certain things that is exactly what we want. And I would like to bring a parable of the young rich man just for us to have an idea how that works, right? This young rich man comes to Jesus and asks him what he could do to be in the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus tells him, obey the commandments. And he tells Jesus, but I have been doing that throughout my whole life. And then Jesus looked at him and said, go sell all your possessions and follow me. When Jesus said that to him, he did not want all of us and every single one of us to dispose whatever material things that we have. It's just that looking inside that young man, he saw that he was not challenged in his life. By being rich, he was in a position of easy life. He was not being challenged, right? He has everything he could possibly needed, and he did not need to leave that comfort zone to be challenged on the struggles of life and show himself the true self that was hidden because of this lack of struggles and challenges of his lives. So we need to think about that. How many times we are so much in our comfort zone that we cannot experience all that life has, all the lessons that life has for us, all the lessons that are there. And so many times we pointing fingers of others not being able to go through, without thinking that, what if I'm in that situation? Am I able to also do that? Right? And with these times of so much violence, so much aggressiveness, how is our tolerance? How are we being able to, through these teachings of Jesus, respond in a way that shows that we are meek and that we are pacifiers, that we can, although dealing with that difficult person, how can we respond in a way that Jesus' teachings tells us that should be, right? I'm going to step out a little bit from the book of Jesus in Our Days, from Joanna de Angelis, and go to another book of hers that's called Plenitude. And she, in chapter 8, if I'm not wrong, she mentions how we need those some steps, really, for us to think about our doctrine and to think about the philosophy that we have embraced as a spiritist. What is that we believe, and how, and we believe and why we believe in what we believe, right? So she talks about the belief rightly. In other words, if I believe in Spiritism, what is the sayings and the gospel according to Spiritism, for example, that tells me how I need to do, how I need to be? If I go there on the chapter of Be Perfect, what is in the item of a good person? What is the virtues that I still lack? Because I need to be that person, and I need to work on myself to be that person. Of course, and we can remember about that other parable that say some seeds 100%, some seeds 60%, right? And that's us. According to our maturity, we will be able to act one way or another and respond to this Be Perfect, to this good person, as we are being able to go through the challenge of life and raising within ourselves these virtues. So when she says believe rightly, what she wants us to do is be able to think, why do I believe in things the way I do? We have heard of spiritists before, when seeing someone committing a grave, a harsh crime, a grave crime, saying, oh, this person needs to be killed, cannot be with us in society. And then if we think about it, wow, but one of the first commandments is not, you shall not kill. So when we as a spiritist, we don't act and we don't speak rightly, righteously, within that we believe, how can we expect others that have not the same information that we have also act rightly? So when we believe rightly, when we think rightly, when we want to live righteously, then what happens is we will think and we will put as much effort possible to also live and act righteously, right? So it is really a call for us to think about, what is that I believe, what I want to see in this planet, in this world happening, and how can I be part of it and really work on it, right? There is a saying from Jesus that says, come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. It's telling us that, yes, it is a challenge to experience and live by Jesus' teachings. However, when we are able to do so, we will feel this burden much more lighter. We will feel the presence of the good spirits, Jesus itself, giving us that inspiration to do better each and every day. And if we think about the Jesus teachings, we know that the law of love, it is everywhere. Every single teachings of Jesus comes from the law of love. And one of them that we can think about is the love your neighbor, right? And in a first moment, if we think about the law of your neighbor, we will think about the law of reciprocity. I give, I help, and I am helped. I give, and I received. And we will think about friendships, right? And we will think about good times. However, are we able to live in such a state all the time? Sometimes within our family members, within friends and co-workers and people that live among us, that we cross path and that are called our neighbors, so to speak, how many times we have get irritated with them and we have been intolerant. So one of this law, that the law of your neighbor, it seems so easy, and yet how many times have we fought, have felt irritated with that person, or have really kind of go in a war, mental war with that person? So how many times have we not really truly be able to love our neighbors? And if we think that this law that is easier, how about that one that, I don't know for you all, but for me, it sounds to me one of the hardest laws from Jesus is that love your enemy. If I have difficulty loving my neighbor, how am I going to be able to love my enemy, right? If that the small things that a neighbor might do to me that made me feel irritated and that I show intolerance, how about that person that have caused me harm, that might have killed a family member, that might have put me in a situation that I can not accept at all? And how can I love that enemy? And of course, Jesus is not asking us to love an enemy the same way as we love a friend. We all know that. We can go there to the gospel according to Spiritism, which we call as manual of a good living, right? And we can read all about it. And it talks that, and it tells us how it is not the same love. However, the problem of the sinner, it belongs to those that practice it. It is never between me and my brothers and sisters. It's between me and God, between me and the divine laws. And when we think about that, and that Jesus said that God does not want the annihilation of the offender, but the infraction itself, then we need to rethink about it, right? What is expected from us? What can I do when I am not able to love an enemy? And I would like to bring a story that is a true story. I have seen a documentary or an interview. I don't recall exactly what it was. I think that was on the 60 Minutes. But caused me such an impact that when I was preparing this study, immediately that story came to my mind, because there was a story of 3 families that they have lost their young son. And there was a 4th family that they did not show in the interview. That was the family from another young man that killed those 3 young men. And the interesting part is that they spoke with this family and how they were feeling. And the first family that they spoke with, this woman, this mother, she was in such a distress. She could not talk about anything else but her hatred for that young man that had killed her son and destroyed her life and her family. You could see not anger. She really has, her anger was in another level. She hated, and her idea was so fixated on that young man that had killed her son that he could not talk or think about anything else. And that was very impactful, that interview. And they also interview the second family, which the family was very sad, the mother tearful, as we of course expect, right? And they were in such a despair. The sadness, they were lost. They did not know what to do with the loss of their young son. And they also interviewed this third family. And that woman said, crying, tearful from time to time, but she said something that was touching. She said, there is no winner here. I lost my son. The other mothers have lost their sons. And also, the mother of the young man that killed our sons, she also lost. She lost her son because she will not have, as we did, we are not going to have the opportunity to have our sons with us. And the young man that killed our kids, he also lost because he is not going to be able to be someone in society. He is not going to be able to have the freedom anymore. He's not going to be able to be there with his mother and bear a child and give a grandchild to his mother. So all of us have lost. That was very interesting. And the story does not end in here. Because when they did this program, this show, that was few years after this first interview. They interview again all the three families. And that was for me the most impactful because first they start with the third family. And that family, they together was doing kind of a celebration for the son, celebrating his life, honoring him in a way. I think they have created some type of program to talk about violence or something. I don't recall exactly what they did, but they were doing with friends, families, neighbors in general. They were doing some type of not a party, right? A celebration in honor of her son. The second family, that mother and that family that was in such despair, they were not in that bad anymore. They continue sad. They continue thinking about their sons, feeling the loss. But it was interesting that they continue kind of lost in there. They have not acquired any meaning. They did not have a goal. They were just living life one day after another. But the first family, that one that was for me the most impactful because they spoke with the mother. And although the mother was no longer in that distress that they show in the first interview, but the hate in her eyes, the words she said, that was really, really impactful. She continued hating that young man. And she was not even able to talk about her own son. The only thing she had in mind was about that young man that have destroyed her son's life, her life, and her family life. And they have to do a second interview because the family was no longer together. The father and the mother had separated. They could no longer deal with each other. And the man mentioned that, how the mother was so lost and how that situation have impacted them so in such a strong way that they were no longer able to be together. So the father and the other kids were separated from the mother, and they were living their lives the best they could. But that mother, she was stuck, still in that situation, not able to forgive at all that young man that have committed the crime. So that story impacted me a lot, and makes me feel, because one of the most important part of the law of love is forgiveness, right? If we are not able to forgive, how can we move on? If we are not able to forgive, how can we love our neighbors? How can we love our enemies? So that is the first part, being able to look forward and say, well, maybe I cannot forgive that person right now. It is really too much. He has killed my son. But I will give to divine justice the opportunity to do whatever is needed with that person. And I will move on in my life. And when I have the opportunity to, when I have the capacity to, then I might forgive. And that's fine, because depending on our maturity, we are not yet able, and would be hypocritical, right? To say, oh, I forgive you, I just don't want to see it anymore, right? So when Jesus gave us all these teachings, and when we talk about understanding the teachings of Jesus and try to apply, of course we need to look into what we already can do. And going back to St. Augustine and the Gospel according to Spiritism, and also on the Spirit's book, he tells us that recipe. Look for our actions. What I'm doing with what I already know. What are the virtues that I already have? What have I done good in this day? And what I still need to work on? What are the not good actions that I have engaged and that I need to correct? Right? And then one day after the other, we will gonna become better each and every day. In Happy Life, Joana de Angelis writes to us, never repay a wrong with revenge. Bad people are sick but do not know it. Give them medicine that will lessen their confusion and resist the eye for an eye. Approach if others offend you, that is their problem. But if you offend others, the situation reverses and the problem becomes yours. The offender is always worse off. Be mindful of this and go your way in peace. And so many times we hold to that harsh feelings, right? We feel in our pride attacked, and many times we want the revenge. And the revenge sometimes does not sound very straightforward, right? I want this person to die. I want this person to go through everything they have done to me. But we are quick to say, wait until the divine justice catch that person. And right, that is a revenge. How many times have we made mistakes? So we also need forgiveness. And maybe not as, we might not do such a strong actions, so bad actions on our eyes, but how many times are we just like that young rich man? That because of all that we already have and living in this comfort zone, right, that we are living in, we have not gone through the difficulties that so many people out there are going through. And so before judging, let's think about ourselves. What is that I need? So another important teaching from Jesus, do not judge if you do not want to be judged. When we point fingers, very quickly, we have that highlight, that light within us, right? And every time that we make a mistake, people are, talking and pointing fingers, but how about yourselves? And it's interesting because Jesus, he works in favor of education. He wants us to learn, and he wants us to understand all the laws and apply those laws, starting with ourselves. If we think about that adulterous woman, what Jesus did? Well, he did not accuse her, and he did not accuse her accusers. If we all remember that that passage, right? Jesus wrote in the sand. It said that he wrote the sins of every one of the accusers, but he never said, you have done this, you have done that. He just wrote in the sand the sins. And because of his moral, because of that magnetism of him, every single one realized that what he was writing in the sand belonged to them. And says in the parable that the oldest left first and after the youngest. And that's something for us to think about it. Why are we accusing if we have so much that we need to work on as well? So we need to be in attunement with those teachings of Jesus in order for us to improve ourselves and be better each and every day. Going back a little bit again to the book Jesus in Our Days, Joana de Angelis tells us that we have to have the courage to choose the best. Because it's not easy. As we said before, many times our desires ask us for something, and Jesus' teachings ask us for another things, right? How many times we have said, oh, but I want this. And yet, everything is permissible. but not everything is beneficial, told us Paul. And let's think about that. What I'm doing today will gonna cause me any harm tomorrow? Or how about in the next life? The Spirit tells us that sometimes a second of an action that was not reasoned and thought can cause us harm for centuries from several lives. And we need to be careful with that, because it's us that we're going to be experiencing the consequences, right, of our actions. So when John de Angelis tells us to follow Jesus, to include his education in our days, it's for us to understand why every single one of those lessons, it's what these lessons are calling us and why we need to do that way. Understanding why we need to do what we need to do, why we need to follow those laws, will gonna give us an easier life, not easy, right? An easier life, because we're gonna have a meaning. We're gonna have a meaning for the sufferings. We're gonna have a meaning for the difficulties, the obstacles that we are going to go through. And if we look out there with so many things going on, we know we need it. We need to be those meek and peaceful human beings if we want to stay on earth, right? Because just those that are meek and peaceful will be on earth when regeneration comes in our days. So she also tells us that problems we all have, and for now, they are reasons for progress. How can we progress if we are not put it into challenges in our lives? How can we know if we are tolerant, if we are not among people that think differently from us, that say things differently from us? How can we understand how respectful we are for every single one around me if I am not challenged, if I am just among friends, if I am just among those that think exactly the same way I think? So it's easier to be in a spirit center, for example, in that 1 hour, just talk with sweetness and in a way that everyone is so friendly, right? But how about when we start discussing with other people that thinks different from our beliefs? How difficult is that? How difficult is for us to accept that the other person might also be right? It's just talking in a different way. We talk a lot about how the young people, they are so intolerant, but how about us? Are we able to sit down with those young people, these teenagers, these children that are debating with us, and accept what they are saying and try to understand why they are saying the things the way they are saying, right? We say the troubles teens, but we know that they are grabbing everything that they have learned as a child, and they are bringing within them everything that they have learned from previous lives and try to make understanding within the world that we are living in this moment. How tolerant we are when we are sitting down with the other person. It's so difficult because we think we are right. We think that we have the answers. We think that because we have read the whole Spirit book, we have read and studied the gospel, we know everything. But sometimes things shows in a different way. How about if that person, from the perspective that they are thinking, they are saying the right thing? And the words might not express exactly what we want to hear. And yet, in one way or another, they might be right. Let's give ourselves the chance to hear other people talking and try to understand their belief systems and try to understand their thoughts, so we ourselves can also analyze and see what is in here for me to learn. When we talk too much, we don't hear the other person, and we continue thinking that we and only we are the right ones. Let's understand what is going on out there, and let's be tolerant. And sometimes there is much more to be quiet when someone that does not know what they are talking, let them talk, because we are strengthening our beliefs. This person is not saying the right thing because this and that. And they are not able at this moment to understand the truth. So let's give that person the opportunity to learn. Right now, everything that I say will go into their ears. And there is so much maturity, a spiritual maturity, to do that, to be quiet when we are hearing someone saying the bad things, wrong things, and we don't accept, right? So it's really rethinking about what do I need to still learn? What do I need to work on myself to be in attunement with the teachings of Jesus? And Joanna de Angelis, we're going to say that only perseverance, time, and work can lead to victory, not only for all of us as society, but for ourselves. How can we live in a society that is peaceful if we are not peaceful from within ourselves? So it is not to eliminate the struggles, it's to give meaning to it. Why am I going through this? What is going on that I need to deal with this person that is so aggressive? Why am I living in these times? Why am I going through this sickness, these challenges that life is bringing to me? The arguments of unhappiness and dissatisfactions are escape mechanisms, tells us Joanna de Angelis. Because if we are unhappy and dissatisfied, most likely we are not looking forward to work those challenges, to challenge ourselves with that challenges that life brings to us, right? So when we are unhappy with our lives, let's thought about what is missing. What do I need to do to make my life better? Because even if the situation around me is chaotic, but if I have peace within myself, I can go through with those struggles with another understanding, with another meaning. And so I can go through it. Might be difficult, yes, and will give me, with this meaning, an opportunity to learn something new and to improve myself as an eternal spirit. So Joanna tells us, open yourself to love, and love without waiting for a response. Because many of us may not be ready to love according to that unconditional love, according to that agape love. So many times we are going to give love, but not be able to receive that love because whatever is that the other person is going through. But if we are able to love, we have love within ourselves. And everywhere we go, we will have that love. If we need the love of others in order to feel the love, and then we are going to be walking throughout life without love, just waiting when someone is capable of loving me. And just to go to finalizing already, right, our study, I want to bring another message of Joanna de Angelis from the book Happy Life. And she said, thank God for your existence. Praise God by living a wholesome life. Exalt God's love by fulfilling your duties uprightly. Honor God by giving a devoted and faithful servant. Introduce God to humanity by being a model friend, brother or sister in all situations. Glorify God by working for the good of all, your brothers and sisters in humanity. Respect God by obeying the sovereign laws governing life. Acknowledge God in everything and everyone by leading a happy life as God's beloved child. Having these teachings from Joanna de Angelis, reading these amazing books that we have the opportunity to have in our doctrine, in our beliefs, how much can we improve ourselves? How much can we understand and apply in our lives all those teachings? So let's acknowledge God in everything and everyone by trying as much as possible lead a happy life. show happiness even though when we are seeing the struggles around us, seeing life as this moment of struggle, of learning experience, because all these struggles, all these obstacles that we are seeing happening, those are learning opportunities to for us to check ourselves, where are we in this process of evolution, right? What we are still missing. Let's go back to the gospel according to Spiritism. Let's read that page over and over on the chapter of Be Perfect, of Be the Good Person. What is to be a good person? What am I missing? What do I still need to work on myself? Not what the other person that is with me needs. What is that I need to improve? So with that in mind, let's make our lives, our days, opportunities of improvement. Let's accept and allow the teachings of Jesus be present in our everyday. And every time we go through a difficult situation, let us think about a teaching from Jesus that could help us to go through that moment, that struggle, that difficult time in a way that will make us feel that Jesus is right there with us, giving us that strength to improve and uh, to have that victory, right? That Jonah De Angelis told us. So let's be a model, us spiritists, that we have the opportunity to know so much. Can we be a model and a guider for those that does not have the information that we do have? It is maybe a hard thinking. It's maybe a difficult expectation, right? But if we with so much information that we have, we cannot be an example, at least now and then, what to expect from our planet. Let us be that little light that give hope to those that still in darkness. So thank you everyone for having me. And let's ask for God to give us this intuition. Let's ask for Jesus to be with us and the good spirits to give us this strength to keep on going and learning each and every single day.
Thank you very much, Claudia, for your reflections, sharing with us uh, a kind of a pathway. I know the line of work that you do. You're a psychologist, so you're very well the way that you explain how we can relate and sometimes, shut our mouths and give a way for the others to talk about their. Well, I'm not going to repeat the lecture because, of
Mm-hmm.
course, it's going to bring like a lot of reflection. Thank you so much. I'm going to invite you to conduct the final prayer for this beautiful Sunday morning.
All right. So let's continue with our thoughts elevated, thanking God for this opportunity of today, studying those lessons of love, of justice and charity. And let ask Jesus to be with us. We know that He is always with us, but let us be with Him. And also ask the good spirits that is always here, inspiring us to not leave us alone in those moments of so much darkness out there. So we can see the light, and who knows, maybe even be a little bit of a light in someone's darkness. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunities we have always been receiving, the opportunity of being a spiritist and learning from your teachings in such a clear way. But also, we want to take this opportunity, this moment, to ask for our planet, to ask for all of those that are suffering, for all of those that have lost their homes, their families, because of the wars, the catastrophes surrounding their lives. To ask for those that are contemplating suicide or they have committed. May they feel, dear Lord, your presence, your love, and who knows, see the light that bring them back to the opportunity of continue believing and working for themselves. Also asking for all of those that are sick, body or soul, and for all of us that are learning, working, experiencing life, understanding these Jesus teachings. But so many times we still struggle so much to work on our virtues. Dear Lord, inspire us today and every single day of our lives so we can continue improving and being fraternal pacifiers, working on ourselves and help others that might be in our path. Thank you again for being with us today and ever. And so be it.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Thank you very much for each and every one that joined us in this morning. And have a blessed Sunday morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great, great weekend and week that is coming.